Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is Listening Beyond the Soundbites. Joining me in studio, thank you, is Representative Mark Higley, who's from Lowell. That's what county?
It's in Lowell in Orleans County.
Orleans County. I was going to say, I don't even know if we have an Orange County, but I was going to say that. Anyway, and he's on the Ways and Means Committee. We're going to talk about that a little bit because I still get confused with what you all take up in Ways and Means versus appropriations. So, anyway, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few things about you?
Yeah, so Representative Mark Higley from Lowell. I represent a 2-seat district with Mike Marcotte up there. So it's towns of Lowell, J, Westfield, Troy, Newport Center, Irisburg, Coventry, and my Lamoille County town of Eden.
How do you campaign?
Well,
Well, you start in December. You're starting now, right?
Right.
Oh my word!
So and so there's a lot to it to get around, and I try to get around to most of the town meetings as well.
Oh.
So I made it to 6 out of the 8 last year.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I love it when legislators have to rattle off 7, 8 towns.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know how I had enough trouble with Berlin and Barry City, but
But so I'm also on LCAR, Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules.
That's
I
important.
just picked up a leadership role. I was in a little bit of a leadership role last year, but Representative Toof has left for a job in St. Albans town. And so now I'm the assistant minority leader.
Excellent.
So so I've got a lot on my plate.
There
Sometimes
you go.
I wonder
think you
maybe
do. Plus traveling.
too much.
You don't get to work in 10 minutes.
Yeah. But in my regular career, I'm a general contractor, builder, and have some beef animals, and used to have draft horses. And, so.
How nice.
So I got a lot that keeps me busy.
I bet it does. And then you have to answer phones at night. There you go.
Emails, phone.
Yeah. And if you don't, they are not happy about it.
Right.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about Ways and Means, as I just said a little bit before. Can you tell me the difference? What kind of bills are you responsible for? It's taxes, but what Ways and Means does versus approps?
Right. Any bill that has a tax in it, basically. And so we're the ones that look for where the revenue comes in, and then appropriations is the one that looks how to spend it.
Now that'd be a good way to explain it.
Yeah.
Because what to do with it.
So the big one, of course, is always the yield. They call it the yield bill.
Yep.
So that's the one that funds education. And so there's a big chunk of that is the property tax, of course. And then there's other pieces in there that contribute to it.
And there's a lot happening about property tax, about taking money that's slated for education, but putting it back where it's supposed to be.
Into transportation.
And purchase and use.
Yeah, that's where it comes from.
Yep.
But currently, $50 million goes into the ed fund out of the transportation fund.
And there's an effort to put it back, because transportation, it's got a big hole this year.
Excuse me. So they're looking right now, the governor's proposal is to take $10 million a year for the next 5 years out of the education fund, put it back into the transportation fund. And the important part of that, in talking with the folks in transportation, is they can have federal match money with that money.
Right.
So a lot of times you can get 4 to 1, maybe more. So that's and especially when the transportation fund is down now because of lesser fuel purchases for diesel and gasoline
And they still haven't gotten. I don't think they've done much with the electric cars, have they yet?
No, there is a fee on there now, but that money currently goes towards charging stations. And they're looking at creating a mileage fee, so that will go to the transportation fund for roads and bridges and that sort of
I was talking to Matt Coda the other day from the Vermont Fuel Dealers.
Sure.
And now I think it's Meadow Hills is the name of his organization, because he's also doing the dealers, the DMV, the dealerships. But he said, even with that, and I thought, wow, he said it's not easy, because what if you have to pay a set fee, and then you go to New Hampshire for 3 days. Why are you paying when you're out of state?
Right.
So it's not easy, is it?
It's not easy.
You
It's
know,
not easy.
people
but-
just said, give a flat fee, but it's not so easy.
But I think they have to start paying something because
Yeah.
it is,
It's put a hole in things.
it is putting a hole
Yeah.
in it. And if we can't keep up with our roads, boy, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and I don't think this year we've done as great a job as we've done in years past.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to share, Mark, while he was sending me some notes and stuff, shared a couple of, well, staggering, depressing sort of comments. I just wanted to start off our discussion with what you told me, that Vermont has one of the highest tax burdens in the United States, ranking among the top 5. Yay, us.
Yeah.
Residents, the tax burden was going from 11.1% to 11.5% of their income, and we were also the highest property tax in the nation.
Yep.
Another
Yep.
mark for us. We rank among the lowest in the nation for economic momentum due to a shrinking aging workforce, and limited business expansion. So I don't know where all the workers went.
Well,
We're not all, I mean, I'm old, but there's other people that they're not here.
right. And there's another statistic in there as well. You know, during the pandemic, of course, we increased population.
Right.
And just in the last census figures there that came out in January 2026, I guess, it says we lost 1,800 Vermonters.
Well, there was a time where people were coming up from New York,
Right.
just buying houses sight unseen,
Yep.
but that didn't last long.
That's another one of my jobs is I've been a lister in the town of Lowell for 31 years.
Oh, wow.
So I definitely saw it, you know, during the pandemic and continuing on that.
Yeah.
And we just went through reappraisal. And yeah, the property values went anywhere from 60 to 100% increase.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, I think, what is it, every 5 years towns are supposed to?
6 years now.
6 years, oh, now, oh.
Yeah.
Because we did our reevaluation in Berlin. I think, I don't even want to say how much, it was like triple that. We got hit. We were on the upper end of the people and got hit just right in the face. And then, of course, people said, well, you haven't paid that for 18 years, so you're really lucky. It didn't feel like we were lucky at the time we got hit with it, but...
All right, and really, you should have kept up with it to some
Yep.
degree with the common level of appraisal.
Right.
They come in and do an equalization study every year, you know, to show what your assessors have your value at, and then what the sales are, and then they adjust that.
But
know.
if you don't do that,
Well,
you should ease into this stuff. You don't wait 10 years and then whack you in the face.
Well, right, but that common level of that equalization study is
Right.
supposed to keep you somewhere close, but, yeah.
Maybe not. And then the last one is, Vermont has the highest population decline in the nation. We're number 1.
Yeah.
That's lovely. And you just said loss of 1,800 residents, deaths exceeding births, and more people moving out than in. Lovely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, this year, I sort of wonder how the governor's going to get out of this, because there is a lot of holes in that budget, a lot of demand.
Right, yep. You know, changes are coming down from the feds.
Right, and that's, and we want to talk about that
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
Because you refer to it as HR 1.
Yep.
So we took the federal bill and made it into a resolution? Because
Well,
what is HR, well, how,
That's-
that's
so-
the only way you could look at it?
No, that's the actual federal title of it, rather than a big, beautiful bill.
Oh, you didn't like that?
Well, I didn't mind it.
Yeah,
but-
right. So how did you, what is HR 1? That's their bill number?
That's the big, beautiful bill. You know how all bills
I know, yes,
have to
I know.
have a number.
It's the best.
Yeah.
the
So it's-
greatest.
Yeah,
So, and I've been watching your committee on Zoom, and the statistics these people are bringing in to get your arms around what is happening is ridiculous.
yes,
I mean, I found this really cool 4-pager, which talks about gives the overview of it, and I don't even know how to get started but let's talk about, what was the word you told me, decoupling?
Decoupling.
Decoupling.
Yeah.
You're allowed to, as a state, and I think South Carolina, one of the states down there is trying to totally decouple. Because if you don't decouple, you do whatever the feds pass. That automatically, that passes Vermont.
Yeah.
We decoupled in only certain areas.
Right.
And in other areas, because I remember years ago, what was it, 24%? Whatever your Fed rate was, you just took 24%, that's what you gave the state.
Right.
And I think it was 24, I don't quite remember.
I don't remember that
Yeah, I
either,
don't-
Pat.
But that's how it worked. They
Yeah.
gave you a certain percentage, and whatever the feds came up with, you took 24% of what you owed, and that went to the state. So now that's,
It's similar now. That's
Yeah.
why we have to make a decision whether or not to decouple from any of the changes.
right. How does
And-
that process work? Are you talking about that now?
Yeah, so we have joint fiscal office as well as ledge counsel in all the time. We had 3 tax experts, a couple from out of state and one that's local, that are really knowledgeable. I'm certainly not with all the tax codes and how
Right.
they affect businesses and individuals in the state. And I think, there was 9 in particular changes in HR 1 that, affected Vermont. And I think in the first year, it was a loss of maybe right around $1 million. And in the second year out, it was right around $4 million plus. That in a $9.4 billion budget isn't a lot.
Right.
And we have the tax department come in and they talk about looking at some of these changes, because if you do decouple, there's some substantial costs to new forms, educating the public,
Right.
educating, tax preparers,
Right.
all that sort of stuff. So that's what we're trying to get our heads around. We haven't really landed on anything concrete yet,
Right.
but I think we're gonna pretty much stay, and there's already a couple of areas that were decoupled from the feds already that will
Yeah.
probably stay that way. Again, basically because the tax department said, hey, we do it this way now. If we make a change, it's gonna be, substantial, so.
Right. And the HR 1 was staggered in its implementation, right?
Some of it,
Yeah,
yeah,
some of it. So you're really, every year, you're gonna have to learn something new.
yeah. Another big one was the provider tax that is charged to hospitals.
Oh.
That we have match money that goes back into Medicaid reimbursement.
Right,
And that's slowly got to come down. We're one of the higher ones that have a provider tax. I think it's a little over 5%.
Huh.
And they want to, over the years, drop it to feds,
Yep.
and it's something that we have to do. That's something that's not an option. Over the years, I think they want to drop it down to about 3.5%. So in those number of years, it's quite a bit of loss to Vermont to put back in and match up for
Right,
federal
right.
Medicaid money.
well, it's Medicaid?
Yeah.
Because I know in transportation, sometimes it's 2 to 1, 3 to 1, depends on how much money they've got. And if we can match it, we get a lot back, so.
Right.
It's like leaving money on the table if you,
Yeah.
that's big bucks. So do you have a list of where we are right now with the things that we're going to decouple or not?
I
Or
don't
You're
really.
not there yet?
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Do you have any that are effective this year?
I believe so, but I'm not just sure which one it is right at
Okay,
this
so
point.
when will we know? What is your deadline?
Well, we've got to,
Because then you got to go to the Senate.
right, yeah. So
This
some
isn't
of that
going to
has
be
to.
a May adjournment date, is it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure we've got to come up with some of that. Ways and Means has the opportunity to go a little bit past crossover with some stuff. So hopefully
Yeah.
we'll have some of those decisions.
Seriously, I don't know how you all do that, because this guy was, and this is not going to win friends if anybody sees this video. he said, and I think he works for Joint Fiscal. He chart after chart after chart, and it's not so easy to see it on Zoom,
Right.
which is sort of annoying. But I'm glad it's there, so don't do anything with that. But he said, like not being taxed on the tips. He said, but then why would you just want to do it for waitresses? There may be other people, and Vermont is always making sure it's fair and equitable. So you may not want to. I thought, oh, don't be everybody in the state's talking about that.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
I don't know about that.
it's never easy,
No,
is it?
exactly.
It's never easy.
Because in one way, it makes sense that we're always fair and equitable, and if you let one craft or one job skill get a break, what about, shoe salesmen who work on commissions? I mean, I don't know,
Yeah.
but there must be other people out there
Oh,
that work
sure.
on tips, car salesmen, or who the heck knows. But anyway, I wouldn't want to make those decisions.
No.
Like you could have to run to your car after you get out of the State House. So you're looking now at which, that's when how do you work with appropriations? Because whatever you all decide, they've already figured out, or will soon, how much money they need.
Right.
And then you have to find where they're going to get it.
Well,
sort of.
right, and really, it's kind of set now, because again, I don't know if you heard in the governor's address again, he said no new taxes. Right?
How can you make up I mean, I don't want new taxes, but how can you make up for the,
Well, the
like, you
revenues that
wanna
are coming
spend
in,
less? Ooh,
right, the revenues that are coming in, they've pretty much worked it out that,
really?
they've got what they need for that $9.4 billion budget. Yeah.
Because I always wonder, after all this back and forth, and all of a sudden we have excess money that from the year before that we can put to, well, anyway, I don't understand where, maybe somebody's died and we get the surprise estate tax.
Well, that happened
That's
one year
happened,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to sort of wait around, right? So
You never know.
kick the bucket. So anyway, so what else can you share with us on this? Because you have been taking testimony
Yeah.
one day after the other.
Yeah, the other thing that we're heavily involved in is a couple of provisions of Act 73, which is the education reform bill.
Yep,
We're looking at provisions around what the multipliers might be for kids that are on IEPs. We're looking at pre-K program, how that's going to be funded.
right.
It's funded with the foundation formula, but we have to put these multipliers on, whether they're English learners, that sort of thing, that goes above that $15,033 per student
Right.
amount.
Right.
But I think it's that part of it, I really think is, most other states do it. Vermont is unique in the way we do our
Well,
education funding. I
Right.
mean, every town in the state puts together their budgets, sends it to the state, and then the state uses everybody's grand list to pay for it.
and if
and-
they're not updated,
Yeah, and, well, yeah.
I heard that their state's going to take over that. Is that true?
Well, to some degree. We did get a provision out of there where the state was actually going to hire on more district advisors through PVR, Property Evaluation and Review, and kind of head up that. It's back kind of in the town's purview now, but a couple of things that they are considering is creating these regional assessing districts. So they want them to follow these new districts that we don't have a map for yet.
That's not the governor's plan, is it? Are they looking at that?
Well, yeah, he originally, remember, he had 5 districts. And-
Sorry.
And then just recently, the House Education came out with, I think, a map that had 26.
Ah,
And so these regional assessing districts would be linked up with those. And as a lister, the concern for me is they want to have one common level of appraisal in each of those, districts. And to me, they want to have one what they call a regional board of civil authority as well. Yeah, so
Really?
if you
For the
appeal.
district, one in
Yeah,
each district?
Yeah, so,
Wow.
and there'd be one member from each town that would be appointed to this board, or elected to the board, appointed if nobody was elected by the town select
Right.
boards or whatever. And then they'd pick 3 to hear the appeals from, citizens in a town. And you couldn't hear an appeal if it was coming from your town.
Yeah, right, conflict of
Yeah,
interest or who
but-
knows what.
And so that's, and then the towns are gonna have to pay for those individuals, and they wanna have regional assessing district full appraisal too at the same time. And I don't know, it gets a little complicated, and it really moves things away from, if you ask me, any form of local control in that regard,
Right. Well, we call it local control. Some of us just say local influence because
Well,
you,
Yeah. Well,
people don't show up.
They talk about the local boards of civil authority being biased or, not having the expertise to do it. But, in small towns, I
Right.
pretty much understood that the Board of Civil Authority is generally going to give folks a little bit more of a break, even
Yeah,
if
right.
most solicitors did.
Right.
And in the scheme of things, how many
Right.
actually appeal in a year,
Right.
So,
But it's a very interesting local, like municipal politics. Putting my campaign for Vermont hat on, we put in this proposal that we would have, I think we have 14 tech centers. Is that right, 14?
I think so, Pat, I'm
So
not,
we were going to have 14 districts
Oh.
with the tech centers in the middle.
yeah,
And then have the tech centers funding be weaved into the funding for the whole district, so we're not sending our kid because we're gonna lose money, and that it's all out of the same pot.
Yeah.
And it's up to the superintendent to decide who gets what. Good luck to him or her. But we just thought the 5 would be, nobody would come to the meetings if they had to drive more than,
I know, that's a big distance.
I mean, really, and
sometimes.
especially with the can't even say the word, topography in Vermont, you may be over hills and dales and adding more time instead of as the crow flies. So
Yep,
I don't know how that would be successful.
I don't know, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, there's a lot of money to be saved because of the reduction of the number of supervisory units. And you know what else they have to do? That somebody's got to go in, like we did at DMV, and take each document and decide and try to wheedle it down for this poor guy or girl who's going to be the superintendent, and to try to get their workload down to something
Yeah.
reasonable. I mean, 5 in this state? Goodness gracious.
The other thing that we're trying to work on in Ways and Means as well is a proposal around school construction.
Oh,
As you know, there hasn't been any,
Right.
state match for any of that.
right.
Generally, towns have to go out to bond to
Yep.
get the
big
needed
bucks.
repairs. I guess there is some emergency funding for critical issues for schools, but, so we just had Secretary Saunders in, Education Secretary, talking about how that really can't come into play until we get these districts squared away. Because again, let's say you didn't have the district squared away and somebody put millions of dollars into their school building.
Right,
And then all of a sudden, your district is combined, and they're combining that particular school building. I mean, I don't know if you just heard, but Worcester and Calais
Oh, I know, yeah.
voted to keep their
I
individual
got
schools.
a lot of texts after that vote because I knew one of the women who were very active, and a lot of people didn't want. And so I wrote her back and I said, can anybody override it? And she said she didn't think so, but
But there's an example, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That if you put a bunch of money into one building, and then they do have to, because of the number of students,
Right.
and it sounds like they lost, because of that vote, it sounds like they lost, like a nurse and a bunch of other staff
Right,
throughout the
right.
whole district.
right.
So I don't know.
And there's not enough people anyway.
Right.
There's basic people.
Yeah,
Not enough teachers, not enough, every place you go in Vermont, you go into a restaurant, nope. No service people, no,
No
it's like wonderful. When we merged everything back, I don't remember when, a couple of years ago, we wound up absorbing one of the town's money that they had to pay
Oh.
because of the new school. It
Yeah.
went to all of us, and we didn't have any debt
Well.
until the merger. And I just thought that was ouch.
That's another,
Yeah.
thing to consider.
Yeah, because if you're merging with a town that has just built something and spent a lot of money and have a big bond to pay off,
Yeah.
you get to pay it off too.
Yeah,
You gotta ask those questions.
yeah.
Anyway, so what else do you have? Maybe you could just go
Well,
through some of the lists that you wanted to talk about.
an interest to folks certainly might be, a few years back, Vermont followed California with their clean car and truck standards.
Right,
So what that required was a certain phase up to no new internal combustion engines sold in Vermont
Oh,
by
right,
2035.
right,
And actually, this model year, we're supposed to have 35% of our vehicles on lots be EVs. And I talked to dealers last year, and they only had about 12%. And I just talked to Matt Coda,
oh.
and he told me it's down to 10%
Oh,
now.
I love Matt.
Yeah.
I put on Facebook yesterday, I read an article that said the electric buses in Vermont,
Right.
they cannot be charged below 41 degrees. I don't know what winter you've experienced, but we may have had 41 below zero, but no 41 above.
$8 million of buses are
Yeah.
sitting there not running.
I mean, seriously, and then you can't put them in the barn because they could catch on fire.
It could, there's a possibility of catching on
Great
fire.
decision. Who made those decisions? I don't
Yeah,
want to know.
well,
Don't tell me.
But again, going back to the clean car standards, it's unrealistic to think that we can do that. And then, of course, President Trump has sued. There's 17 states that are, 16 states probably, 17 states total, I think, that have the California Clean Car Waiver. So it's a waiver to go above and beyond the
Right.
Federal Clean Air Act. So he is suing, saying that they don't have the right to do that. So I certainly hope that that's one area that he wins in, because, well, to back up just a little bit too, last year Governor Scott realized in talking with dealers and so on, and Matt Cota, I'm sure,
Oh, yeah.
that it was unattainable, and there's provisions for, holding the line to those amounts. The governor had an executive order that postponed enforcement of that until actually December of this year. So he's either going to have to do it again, or hopefully the federal lawsuits will come to a head and figure out what we can do or what we can't do.
Have you figured out yet why we love California so much? It's such a great state.
No, it's, yeah.
I mean, that's scary. They haven't replaced one house that burned down.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's like something, I don't know why, but they haven't, there's not one house that's been built to replace what got lost in that fire.
I think I heard one family that was talking about rebuilding, and they were asking the wife, I guess, what are you calling the house? And she said, I'm going to call it my bunker. and,
Exactly.
and it was being made of some concrete,
Yeah, oh, lovely.
solution
Well, they
to-
wanted to withstand the next fiasco.
fires and
Yeah.
earthquakes. And
Lovely.
the other issue that the governor stepped up on is residential building energy standards and commercial energy standards.
Yeah,
So they were supposed to, the new standards were supposed to go into effect in December of 2023. We had those rules. It was based on some rules and in Elkhart, and we had a lot of architects and builders and come in and say, hey, these new standards aren't ready for prime time in
Right.
a lot of cases, especially some of the insulation factors and what they were using. We got them to postpone action until July, and it went into effect July of 2024. Some of the testimony that we had from a manufactured home builder was these new standards in the residential building energy standards would increase the cost of an 1,800 square foot home about $28,000. Now that's huge.
Huge is right.
And I actually went to the committee of jurisdiction at the time and asked, because I, had heard all this testimony in Elkhart,
Right.
put in an amendment to postpone action on these for 2 years. And they didn't want to hear it. And so finally the governor last year put out an executive order, and it's going to go through rules to allow builders, if they want, they can follow the 2024 standards,
Great.
but if they want, they can fall back on the 2020 standards. It's up to them.
The issue these days is there's affordability in housing and availability.
Right.
So wouldn't that amount of money kind of,
It should, Pat. I mean,
it's
it's,
just common sense. Who's got that kind of money?
well, in committee, I hate to say it, but I was told that, well, Mark, we can't slow down on our efforts to, build efficient homes and combat the climate issue, so.
Right. Do you know, if Vermont did, this is my take, if Vermont did absolutely everything it could for climate change, but we wouldn't change that needle one iota.
Yeah,
And I said we should spend the money on making sure Barry and Montpelier don't flood anymore, and any other town that floods and wipes out people.
well, I think I just talked to, I'm a general contractor by trade, and I
Right.
have a plumbing specialist, plumbing and heating specialist that does a lot of my heat pumps and other systems, and actually I had another individual in just this morning, as a matter of fact, talking about these heat pumps, and especially the people that were trying to rely on them for heat,
Oh,
they aren't cutting it. And
Really?
so, yeah.
contrary to the name.
Because, hey, this winter's been so cold,
Right.
such a
Right.
cold stretch, and it's just not doing it. So they really have to be aware of what they're installing to
New
keep
and
the-
improved may not be.
Right,
Right.
yeah. I guess it's really beneficial and good for cooling in the
Right.
summer, which we've never really seemed to need too much, but now.
It's usually 3 or 4 days in July, and if you can get through them, you're okay.
But this year, geez, it was so dry and hot.
that's right.
Yeah,
But this, I cracked up. I went down to see my husband. I said, you got to read this, 41 degrees to get the battery
Get the bu-
going on the buses. Ugh.
well, I don't know if you remember, it was a few years ago that they had one running. It was maybe like the experiment, right?
Right.
And it was a cold morning, and it was loaded up, and they were going up to the National Life Building, and it didn't make it.
Up the hill there? Oh, stop.
So they had
Oh,
to
they
get
had to
another
get the
bus
kids-
to come down and
oh.
pick up the people. And
The old
so-
gas bus, right?
Yeah, so it's, that should have maybe gave them a clue. But
Yeah, well, we want to be like California.
yeah,
Well, there you go.
but
So what else you got there on your list? That's cool. I love this conversation.
another one that's I've been involved in quite a bit. So Act 59 was an act that is requiring Vermont to conserve 30% of its land by 2030 and 50% of its land by 2050. And that was
Did you say 50%?
50%
Of what land that's
of the
available?
land, our land mass. Yeah,
Weren't we just talking about housing shortage?
well,
Oh,
absolutely.
Sorry, I thought I misunderstood.
No. So this initially came from, actually, it's a UN initiative, and it was one of President Biden's first executive orders.
Oh,
He
wow.
was doing it countrywide. Well, Vermont jumped on it and got it passed. And the situation is, I talked with the Farm Bureau, Forest Products Association, professional loggers, the Rural Caucus. We have a way to meet that 50-50 right now by including current use land in that conserved land designation. It's 2.5 million acres,
Yeah,
and there's already a bunch of acres that they're considering
Right.
conserved.
interesting.
But it didn't gain, I got my 10 minutes of fame in committee last year and it didn't go anywhere, but I think it might be taken up again this year. And it's really, it's working lands, it's what we need in Vermont for, logging and farming. And,
Okay, so you can use it, it's not
yeah,
to
and
be
so,
appreciated or,
and to follow up a little bit on that as well, there's another proposal that's coming out of the Environment Committee that is looking at a wild lands bill. And again, that's looking to tie up a bunch, in particular, right off the bat, state lands. So there'll be no logging, minimum human activities. I mean, there's all kinds of designations for it, but they just keep and like you said, in Act 181, they had the provision that was supposedly supposed to help in regards to Act 250 applications for urban areas
Right.
and downtown centers and village areas.
right?
But in the outskirts, in my neck of the woods, it's all Tier 2 and Tier 3, which is the new road rule.
Right,
So that if you put in a road any more than 800 feet, your project has to follow the 38 guidelines in Act 250. It's Tier 3, they're already doing it. They're mapping out wildlife habitat corridors. And, once you get that mapped on your property,
Yeah,
you can't do
that's it.
anything with it.
Right.
And the Rural Caucus, as well as others, are supporting and putting in bills to, okay, if you're going to go down this road, then this land that's in Tier 3 that's been mapped out, if it's on a property owner's property, then they should only pay the use value, You can't continue to, it's like a taking, if you ask me.
when I was in transportation, we would hear from contractors, and they weren't too thrilled to be building here, because all they wanted to know was how much is it gonna cost, and when am I gonna be able to get the green light to go? And it's because of Act 250, because as you're moving along, something else happens, and you go this route, or you get charged that, and we don't have any clear. He said, we don't really care necessarily how much, we just want to know how much, and you can't figure it out. It's really sad.
Well, it is, and I always give the example. I talked to a gentleman who had created a kiln-dried firewood business in North Hyde Park. So there's a little industrial park in
Right.
North Hyde Park. So, and I would assume that an industrial park would have, gone through the Act 250
Right.
process to
Uh-oh.
get that in place, right?
Right.
But his little lot that he bought within the park had to go through Act 250, and it cost him $70,000.
Here you are.
And then his business was a success, so he wanted to buy the next lot. Wouldn't you think that it would
Sure,
say,
just go-
oh, carbon copy,
Right.
boom. But he
Another
had to go through.
70,000?
Yeah, he had to go through. I don't know if it was that much the second time
Yeah.
around, but he said he had to. He
It's
couldn't
sad.
just, buy the next lot and expand his operation.
Right, nope.
So, whether it's.
There's something wrong.
Yeah.
There really is.
Well, and that goes to, we rank the lowest in economic momentum.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah.
And, it's a fact that people are leaving and nobody's coming in. I mean, we're getting a bad rep about being too expensive.
Yeah.
And and I don't think I'm not sure how many people would have taken that $10,000
right,
incentive to come here. I mean, it's a lot of money, but not for lasting long and building a house.
And probably most of them would have come here regardless,
Well,
right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
But I'm really worried. I know we have Ethan Allen Furniture up our way, and
Something happening?
well, no, just that I was worried that they're going to get into a situation where taxes or regulations are going to eat them up, and
Yep.
I believe they have a sister company in the Carolinas.
Oh, yes,
You
they
know,
haven't. Yep, they did.
So, would they up and move in a heartbeat? We got Columbia Forest Products. We got, we don't have a lot of manufacturing.
Well, and maybe a little bit of a criticism to the legislature. I honestly think they don't have a clue about how minuscule revenues are or profits are to businesses. I mean, you would probably know that yourself. I mean, They
Right.
look at you like you have a business where you must be rolling in dough.
Right.
And because it's so expensive here, the profit margin is like very tiny, and they don't give these people a break.
I know.
It's
I know.
terrible.
And it's continued to regulate, and, I know I fought for a number of years, whether it was rightly so or not, I believe it was, but to require contractors to be registered. It was initially looking
Oh,
at a
right.
licensure.
Right?
We got it down to registration, which isn't quite as intrusive, but again, to go through the process, which I've done, it's a minimal fee. I think it's $75 for just a sole proprietor. But the questions that they ask, and I didn't even know this when it was being initiated, but it's a boilerplate application, whether it's a registration or certification or licensure. You probably remember that from your days in
Right,
government
right.
operations, right? OPR.
Yeah, oh, that's,
Yeah.
every time I was ready to look at OPR, I go, hey,
Oh, it's such a big bill.
terrible.
But there's questions in there like, have you ever been convicted of misdemeanor? Have you ever been convicted of a felony? Have you ever been on a registry? And I'm thinking about some of the contractors in my area. They get to that point, they'd go,
Bye.
and
Right.
not only that, and I did have a contractor reach out to me. A lot of them aren't online. You know what I mean? And this has to be done all online. You can't go fill it
Oh.
out paperwork. Yep,
Yeah,
all
they're
your,
just
you have to have your,
Old-fashioned hands-on, and that's it.
I mean, supposedly the Secretary of State's office will help individuals, but
Yep.
yeah, that's a day out of your time as well, right?
There's a lot of that, though, about online, and I know there's some, they're speaking about an elderly population. A lot of people don't have that skill and are afraid of it.
Yep.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Just keep promoting that business.
Wow.
Don't you find that they think that once you own a business, you're rolling in dough?
Yeah, it just seems.
And they just,
yep,
they're almost like angry about it,
yeah,
and
it's-
so they want to bleed you.
Well, it's getting back to, the changes, I guess we haven't talked about it much yet, but the new category of non-homestead
Oh, yeah,
residential.
you were telling me that, I didn't even understand it. What is that?
Yeah, so currently we have, for taxation purposes and property taxes, we have your homestead rate. So
Right.
that's where you live, right? You fill like your HS 122 every year.
Yeah.
The homestead declaration. And then there's the non-homestead rate, which is second homes,
right.
businesses, whatever it is, And there's a little bit of a difference. It gets a little complicated too. There's a difference in rate. The non-homestead rate is a set rate. The homestead rate starts out as a set rate, but then it's adjusted based on your per pupil spending in your school. So now, currently, there's, I think, 88 towns that the residential rate is more than the non-residential rate. And that's
Yeah.
certainly, I've gotten calls, Jay's one of those towns. And, I get calls from constituents that go, Mark, I'm paying more than a condo up on,
Right.
Jay Peak. And,
Right.
but, of course, they do have the income sensitivity piece of it where you can get the rebate,
Yeah, right.
But where was I going with this?
No, to explain the resident, I'm trying to remember what you told me. Resident, non-resident, something
Yeah, it's
bizarre.
the non-homestead residential
Yeah,
rate.
that's
It's a new rate.
Right.
It's a new category. And it's going to be another
So
job for
do that slowly,
what's that?
repeat slowly what it's calling.
What they all are, or just that
No,
one?
just that one. What was?
Non-homestead residential.
Okay, so,
Yeah, and that category is all second homes
yep.
and Airbnbs.
Oh, make that attractive, won't you? Huh,
So what we have to do, an example, we go through all these examples in committee,
Yeah.
okay? So if somebody has a bakery in a little building
yep,
down below, right? And they have an Airbnb up above, right? The listers, the assessors, whoever, have to go in and it's non-residential,
Right,
okay? So it's not homestead,
Yeah, 'cause it's
because
a
the people don't live there,
right,
right? That's their business.
Right.
So it's non-homestead. So that, we have to measure up the downstairs area, which is non-homestead. And then we have to measure up the upstairs area, which is Airbnb, which is under the non-homestead residential, which is a higher rate.
Oy,
And then if we have to figure out what's the percentage difference between the Airbnb and the bakery, and we have to adjust the land the same. So in other words, if 25% of the building is the Airbnb, then 25% of the land goes to the non-homestead residential rate.
do they give you PhDs for this? What?
Yeah,
That
but,
sounds
and
like-
that's, even the tax department said, boy, it's gonna be a heavy lift for small towns to try to.
Really?
But there's gonna be a yearly attestation that people have to put in that say that, you know, that they're using their upstairs area for an Airbnb. But I guess my point that I wanted to make there was,
Oh my God.
because some of this is coming out now, there's so many folks that have reached out to me that have said, you know, hey, Mark, I've got an Airbnb,
Right.
but it's what I have to do to pay my taxes and make my ends
Right,
meet, you know?
right.
And so now we're gonna hit them hard
Yeah.
with, yeah.
What
And
is, I'm sorry.
I just, yeah, I do, I mean, some people don't understand, you know, Mark, why don't you understand, why wouldn't you want the people that can afford a second home? Well, and I don't know the statistics yet, but there's a lot of Vermonters that have second
For
homes
sure.
and have had for a long time,
Yep,
so.
and what's wrong with that? It's
Well,
part of the American dream, I guess, of having a place
Yeah.
to run away to.
So that's,
What do they consider RVs, or you don't get into that?
no,
'Cause we used to go to
RVs are
Maine.
out of the picture.
Oh,
That's
okay, good.
like personal property.
Ah,
You
good.
know what I mean? You can park in your backyard
Yeah,
and be good to go.
because we used to leave our RV in Maine, and I think we paid $500
Oh, that could be
for leaving it there
Yeah.
from October to whenever, May,
Yeah.
June.
Yep,
Because it's a residence, I mean, it's something you can live
Right.
in.
yeah. And we've done that for, you know, larger camper trails and stuff that sit there all year long and they put a
Right.
deck out in front of
Yeah,
them
right.
and they skirt it. And it's like, no, it's a camper.
Yeah,
you know.
right.
Well, how's that compared to the guy next door who's
Well,
got a
that's
12 by 16?
We had the Florida room, and we had it skirted, and we had all this
Yeah.
porch, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But, so we only have about 10 minutes left. Could you talk a little bit, if you happen to know these off the top of your head? You've sponsored quite a few bills yourself this year. Are any of them moving, or any of them getting traction? And
Well, the H70, the one that I talked about as far as including current use land in this
right.
designation,
Yep,
I'm hoping that's going to
Good.
move. To me, it's a common sense,
yeah,
you know, it's not land that's conserved in perpetuity forever, but I don't really want that. I wouldn't think Vermonters would want that either. That's
Yeah.
something that, when you lock yourself in like that, it's not good. I know, you may remember years ago, the Vermont Land Trust, in particular, actually in one of my towns, Newport Center, was all surrounded by farmland that was conserved,
Yep.
you know, by the land trust. And the poor little village of Newport Center couldn't grow because
Oh.
it was, you know, all the land
Right,
outside of
right.
it
I
was
remember
tied
that
up.
discussion.
And so they were looking at, well, can't we take some of that land and, you know, maybe purchase other land for conservation easements outside of that area and free up some of the land? But it never really happened because, again, you know, with the covenants, I guess, that happen when conservation easements are purchased, it just doesn't allow for that, you know what I mean?
Right,
Generally, a lot of
right.
times it does say in perpetuity forever, or
Right.
in perpetuity, you know. So to think that we're gonna tie up 50% of our land,
That's scary thought. And they don't like it when it's chunks of land. They like it to be contiguous, you know.
right?
And I know a lot of times in transportation, we had to make some changes about what we were going to do to make the land, you know, contiguous, so that you had a reasonable piece of property that you could maybe do something with. But
There's also some there's a new category a few years ago called reserve forest land in
Oh.
current use.
Yeah,
And that's land that you don't do any logging on or anything. And currently, there's 8,239 acres in that,
Whoa.
55 parcels. So again, for our forest products industry and our wildlife and everything else, we need to have this land
Yeah.
actively
Yeah, right.
managed. And
well, then you can't say you don't have enough housing on one hand, and then you say, oh, but you can't have that land because
right,
you have
Yeah.
to have 50, that's a high percentage, 50.
yeah, yeah,
Although, I don't know, sometimes I ride around the state and I say to Bruce, we really there's a lot of land out there that's just there.
right.
Because as you get out in the rural areas, nobody wants to build necessarily because the amenities aren't there,
Well,
no
that's,
water, no sewer.
but a lot of, that's why and where I built, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
I have no desire to live, in a downtown village center.
Well, we have, I think we have, I always get the number wrong, 26, 27 acres. And we can't do anything with it because it's a deer yard
Okay,
and it's wetlands.
oh, yeah,
So, but we didn't want to be surrounded, as we grew up with people next door, but we have neighbors and we love them all, but that they're not
right on top of
right
you.
on top of you. And that's what we like, and so we don't need to do anything with our lands, but,
Yeah,
so I don't know if they would just count that, wouldn't they, or not?
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Yeah, it's,
Because if
You
they
know-
took it, we wouldn't have to pay so much tax, so that'd be good, ha.
yeah. Yeah, they don't want that.
Yeah, they don't want that.
Yeah.
Was there something about pensions somewhere that we were talking about? Was there a bill?
No.
No? Why was I
We've,
thinking about that?
kind of worked on that a few years back
Yeah,
in
so
GovOps.
that
and-
seems to be okay, right?
Yeah,
We
it's still,
thought, some of us thought it wasn't gonna last.
yeah, it's a big burden on Vermont to come up
Yeah.
with those figures every year.
Right, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what I was thinking about, but, because you've got a very active committee. I mean, they've got stuff on the wall all over the place.
Yeah, we're almost,
Is
yeah,
this-
this
is
is my
this it?
second year.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's
Yeah.
a little hard to keep up with it all.
Yeah, but you seem to be doing all right with the numbers. I'd be long gone, I wouldn't remember them. But that HR1, is that the biggest sort of thing you're dealing with? Because that's important.
I wouldn't say it's the biggest thing right now. Some of the stuff is, again, trying to work out all the details around the Act 73, the new education,
Right.
with
Oh,
all
that's
these,
huge.
how much do we need for pre-K?
Right.
Where are we going to get the money for school construction, Because it's needed.
But, with all the money we spend, we really don't get our return on investment? Because we are so low in the pecking order of performance.
Proficiency
Our
ratings.
I mean, our kids are not where they should be,
know.
and I feel bad because, if we were able to offer people a really solid workforce that had some great performance, you don't think people would move here? If we could offer them a workforce that ready to go and reading, writing, arithmetic is their forte, I mean, they'd come.
That was like my dad back in the day. He served 25 years on the school board.
Ah,
He was always getting criticized because he
Dad.
was always reading, writing, and
Yeah.
arithmetic.
well, nothing wrong with that.
No, I know. Well, get the base under them,
Right,
right?
yeah,
And you probably heard too that, Mississippi and Louisiana used to be way down in their
Yep.
reading
Now, right
proficiency,
up.
and now it's way up. And they've done it. I read a little bit about it. I can't remember all, but there's some phonics implementation and stuff that they did that was kind of unique. And but yeah, so we're going in the wrong direction for sure.
yeah. Well, the one thing I noticed when I was a deputy of Department of Education is that every year or so the feds came up with this brand new approach that's going to save us all. And so we'd make our teachers implement this new No Child Left Behind. And you don't even give it a break. I mean, anything new like that's got to take some time and some tweaking and molding it to what Vermont is. but then they come back another couple of years, no, we're gonna do this instead. And I don't know how the teachers stand it, to tell you the truth, because they need some consistency too, so
Yeah.
they've practiced and learned, and then, of course, you have the pandemic, and it's a skill to teach over the computer.
Oh, yeah.
And our teachers weren't skilled in that, I mean,
That's another thing that we did that I think is positive though, Pat.
What?
Last year, we passed a bill to ban cell phones in
oh,
schools.
yeah, I agree with that one.
So,
I had trouble myself,
yeah,
like at dinner, it's really bad.
yeah, I know,
Shame on me.
yeah.
That's good for the kids, because
Yeah, I
now they
think
have
so.
all this comments about what it's doing to kids, the games and
Yeah.
cell phones, so that's a good thing.
I think that's a big part of the problem countrywide, is
Right.
it's just, everybody's so tuned in and tuned in
Right.
and tuned in and,
Yeah,
You
it's
know, it's
scary,
like-
Big Brother watching or something. So, but you'll get through this year, will you not?
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we always do. And you think about the scheme of things, I mean, we're in a pretty good state, and, I certainly still love it here and enjoy,
Oh, my husband would never move.
I know,
We're here. I think when you're born here and raised here,
something
it's
about
hard.
it.
And you don't look all the time at the bad things. You look at you wake up in the morning and you see the mountains and,
Yeah,
you love
I
it.
gotta see my mountains. Go to
Yeah.
Florida and it's like, oh.
When I first moved here, I lived in Bristol, and I used to ride over to Lake Champlain and just look, and I'd say, oh, now I remember why I moved here.
Yeah,
And I just needed that look.
kind of a standing joke now though is, so we lost 1,800 folks in the past couple of years, right? We have too many more winters like this, we'll lose twice that
Yeah,
many.
well, exactly, it was cold. And then if you buy a school bus, you can't even, that killed me, I swear. I've been talking about that for 2 solid days. I mean, who buys school buses did they know that? That it had to be 41 degrees in order to charge it?
Yeah.
What is wrong with people?
Yeah. Well, I
'Cause
think they were Green Mountain Transit, right? They may
Yeah, it
use
was.
them. They may use them for school, but
Well, in the summertime, it'd be fine, but we don't have schools too much.
right.
But anyway, so any final words about Ways and Means and what's happening and predictions?
No, I just think, we've got a lot to work out. The yield bill, again, like I said, whether
Yep.
or not we're going to agree with the governor on, the money going back to
Is his
transport.
budget in your committee now, or?
We're looking at it.
We're-
We're looking at, that provision about taking the money out.
Yep.
And it looks like there might be money found in the general fund to replace that $10 million.
Oh,
I'm not sure
is
about that.
anybody like spending less? Just asking.
No.
Silly
Well,
me.
the only transportation department has to, they're laying off
Yeah,
some
they laid
people.
off some folks, which is very sad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so, but
'cause,
it is, I mean, I remember years back, during that slowdown, there was quite a rescission,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, because the transportation department, I mean, in Washington, you never know what they're going to do, and that's the same with decoupling. You just don't know what Washington's going to do depending on
Well,
who's in power,
Right, and a lot of those, when we had a lot of those people in talking about it,
right?
a lot of those provisions went out many years. And my point was, well, that could all change in 3 years, couldn't it? And they're
Right.
like, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you say, it
And
up and down and
yeah, you
round
don't
and-
know.
but,
Well, thank you, Mark, very much for joining us
yeah,
tonight.
I
I
enjoy
really
it.
enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I could be in Ways and Means, but,
Well, I enjoyed
right that-
GovOps better.
yeah, well, but this is the crux of state government, is the money.
Yeah,
They always say, look for the money.
yeah.
But thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Pat.
We'll have you back soon.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, it's fun. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the sound bites.